Hello everyone. My name is Karandeep Sodhi, and I'd like to welcome you all to Kiwi Tech's crowdfunding workshop today in partnership with Start Engine, a leading equity crowdfunding platform in the US. We appreciate the overall support of the startup ecosystem, and today's exclusive online workshop will revolve around regulations of crowdfunding, and you get to also learn from the industry experts about proven market strategies, key legal concepts, and best practices needed to run a successful crowdfunding campaign for early and growth stage startups. Now, after the workshop as well, we will also be dedicating a couple of minutes for the Q&A, live Q&A with the audience. So do send in your questions during the entire event, during the entire workshop, through the Q&A or the chat feature that you can find at the bottom of your Zoom screens. Of course, we'd be addressing those questions at the end of the event as well. Now, before we kickstart the workshop, I'd like to invite our Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Jerry Ballin, to give a quick overview of Kiwi Tech.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karandeep. Welcome, everyone, from wherever you are in the world. It is my pleasure to make this brief introduction of Kiwi Tech for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Of course, many of you have already heard this, so please bear with me. As Karandeep mentioned, I am proud to be Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Kiwi Tech. I've been with the company for almost 10 years now, and I've been able to witness our ever-evolving ecosystem, which is designed to assist early stage and growing companies to help them realize their vision by providing world-class technology services, assistance with capital acquisition, marketing services, and also accounting services via our recent acquisition of Graphite Financial. A bit about Kiwi Tech. As I mentioned, it's an innovative service company that works almost exclusively with early stage companies to support their mission and vision for their business. Since our founding in 2009, we have built a global community of innovators, mentors, investors, and enterprises in the US, Canada, and now rapidly expanding around the world. We have over 500 companies in our portfolio, an investment network of over 2,000, and we've raised $75 million for our founding partners. As I mentioned, we have over 200 mentors in our ecosystem. We have provided over $100 million in technology support services, and we have this growing event base, which is about 80 networking events and growing each year. Milestones and roadmaps. This slide shows our evolution and our path from the founding of the company to where we are today and hope to be in the next few years, where we strive to have over 1,000 companies in our portfolio. In 2012, our founders sold a services company, basically a technology services company that they built and scaled to over 5,000 employees. It was called Aptara, and it sold for over $144 million. And in 2013, we launched this startup program. We launched our demo day program in 2017, all in person in about 15 cities. And since COVID, we have increased these programs to significantly as they are now virtual events. Our mentorship series started in 2019, called the 808 Workshop Series. This was designed to help early stage entrepreneurs learn lots of things about their roadmap to come. And this is what our way of kind of giving back to the community that we serve. In 2021, we scaled the Kiwi Tech ecosystem to over 500 companies, as I mentioned, in our portfolio, with our goal of reaching 1,000 in 2024. So this is a little bit about how the startup partnership model works. We find that as we evolve with technology partners, sometimes their need for development can be upwards of $500,000 over a period of a couple of years. And what we have done, we found a way to help them preserve capital by using a fair market warrant to reduce their actual cash requirements to achieve that level of development. And it usually works 50-50. So 50% of it is in kind for qualifying startups. 50% is in cash over the time period it requires to build their platforms and their technology. This allows for the acceleration of the needed technology advancement while preserving capital and realizing other benefits of the partnership. This is a little bit about our deal flow. That's sort of the summary of 2019 and 2020, and our pace for 2021 is very similar. We contacted over 69,000 companies during these 2 years, had positive responses for over 38,000 of them, spoke with over 10,000 CEOs, from which we had meetings with about 4,000 of them, and we had review opportunities of over 1,600, resulting in 2009 companies joining our portfolio during that period of time. So you can see the funnel effect, and it's a process that we're extremely proud of. The Kiwi Tech ecosystem roadmap consists of our ecosystem stakeholders. Along this top row, you see our portfolio companies, our investor network, our incubators and accelerators that we partner with, and corporate communities that we engage with to help our startups with exposure and obviously with business opportunities. On the services side, we have our technology and products, our financing and accounting, our marketing, our digital marketing, which is approached agency level marketing. It's quite expert. And now, of course, very proudly, and what we're here to talk about today is equity crowdfunding. In the pipeline, we are building two centers of excellence that are extremely relevant today. One is in cybersecurity, and one is in crypto and blockchain. I think every other sentence has blockchain in it these days. So it's obviously a very important area for our growth. Again, looking at the fact that we're onshore and offshore. On the onshore level, we are building these local partnerships, our networks that I mentioned, and offshore, we leverage our amazing technology and marketing teams and continue to grow and expand in those areas very much. Our events. Well, as I mentioned, when we started this, these events were in person. But as you can see, this is a list of the type of events that we proudly host. These are designed to help make the right connections and to ensure that we are providing opportunities for entrepreneurs and investors to the very best of our ability. As you can see, each quarter we have a bunch of events catering to all people, themes, vertical markets, and special interests. The transition from in-person to these online events resulted in substantial increase in frequency and variety. It continues to be our pleasure to host these events, and it is a great privilege to see the attendance continue to grow. So thank you for letting me present Kiwi Tech to you, and it is my pleasure to give it back to our very capable host, Karen Deep, to take it to the next level. Thanks so much, everyone.
Jerry, thank you so much for that great overview, and thank you for your kind words as well. Now, moving on to our next part of the event, I would like to invite Iñaki Pedro Arena, who's the head of partnerships, and Michael Mancini, who's the business development representative from Start Engine, to kickstart the workshop on what is equity crowdfunding and how can I start raising capital now. Turning things over to the experts now, Iñaki and Michael.
Hey, everybody. Good morning and good evening, depending on where you're calling it from. Thanks for having us, Kiwi Tech. Karandeep, thank you. My name is Iñaki. I'm the head of partnerships at Start Engine. It's one of the leading equity crowdfunding platforms in the US. With me is Michael. He's on the fundraising team, and he'll be able to help us out with some really interesting case studies and financial information on the regulatory process and just what's going on right now in general with equity crowdfunding. It's a really interesting time. It's turning up the tide, really, I think, for our industry. These past 2 years, we've at Start Engine and our competitors as well have raised lots of money for different types of startups across all industries. It's really kind of a popular time to raise the equity crowdfunding. And I think it's mostly because now there's, everyone knows at least of somebody or of somebody's friend that has raised via equity crowdfunding. It's gone from this kind of interesting way to raise to an actual very strategic and beneficial way for founders looking for capital. And we'll go over some of those benefits later on today. So I think we have about 20 minutes for our part. So Michael, I'll just let you kind of say a quick hello there, and then we can get started.
Yeah, thanks, Iñaki. How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael Mancini. I'm currently a business development representative here at Start Engine. Essentially, my role at the company is to talk to founders and startups and really understand their business and vet them and see if they are a good fit for our platform and for equity crowdfunding in general, as well as telling them and answering questions about equity crowdfunding and Start Engine to kind of bring awareness to the space as well. So I'm really excited to present here with Iñaki and answer any questions you guys have and talk a little bit more about equity crowdfunding.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll keep an eye on time for the Kiwi Tech team here. And let me share my screen. All right. So crowdfunding, a new age alternative for raising capital. So what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is essentially the concept or idea of pulling in funds from different individuals. It could be 5 people or it could be 10,000 people. The concept is, hey, I'm going to collect, I'm going to reach my goal and I'm going to get there by having multiple individuals chip in, essentially. Now, within crowdfunding, there's different types of crowdfunding. There's rewards-based crowdfunding. This is kind of like a Indiegogo or Kickstarter where people will invest or chip into a project, and what they get in return is a reward, right? So like a free t-shirt, the product itself at a discounted rate, a sticker pack, for example, or a trip to go see the manufacturing plant. So it's more rewards based, and that's really the agreement there. Equity crowdfunding, which is what Start Engine, what we do, when an investor chips in or invests into your campaign, they actually buy securities, they buy shares in your company, and we issue the securities to them. So they actually do become shareholders in your company. And of course, you can also offer perks and benefits like, the free t-shirt or the product itself. But the big differentiation here is that they actually do become shareholders in your company. And then, of course, you have debt crowdfunding, like a lending club. Your companies raise debt financing and the lenders gets interest as a return. So why raise equity from the crowd? So the rest of this presentation will focus on equity crowdfunding, which again, that is what Start Engine does. So the benefits are, you as a founder, you get to set your own terms. That's incredibly empowering for many founders. They can set their own share price, their own valuation. Start Engine, of course, will help you by offering comparables, industry comparables, so we can find the best valuation for your company. But you are, as a founder, in full control of setting your own valuation and your share price for your campaign. You also get to build an army of brand ambassadors. So, we're consistently promoting your campaign to our community of 600,000 investors. We're running ads, on Facebook, Google, Instagram, the works, running TV ads. All of this fosters not only investors, but brand ambassadors who will now also be your number one customers that are going to be promoting your business and your product and service to their friends, their family, other investors, their communities. So we do see quite a bit of companies through this process also increase sales. That tends to be a byproduct of raising money on Start Engine or any other platform, is that if you have a product or service, you can possibly see an increase in your sales because we're constantly just promoting and marketing your company out there. Finally, you can continue to raise consistently. So unlike other crowdfunding platforms, with us, you can raise and you actually have access to those funds as soon as on a weekly basis if you'd like to disperse, or monthly if you'd like to. So you don't need to take down your entire campaign to access those funds, or you don't need to pause your campaign to access those funds. A few things to know about equity crowdfunding. Your financials do need to be public. So things like your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, and your revenue. Certain financials do need to be transparent and made public. So you should feel comfortable with that level of transparency. And I'm sure Michael will take us over a few more of, it's still fundraising. So it's still going to take time on the founder's side. It's still going to be, hard work, and you're going to need a strategy. But we like to say that that's why we're here to help you with this process. And I have heard from a few startups that I work with that raising on Start Engine tends to be the best return for your time. It's all done online. There's no roadshow needed to go around, shopping with different VCs and angels. So it does have its benefits in terms of being a less time intensive way to fundraise. Finally, there are some financial reporting obligations for your company if you do decide to raise on Start Engine or on any equity crowdfunding platform for that matter. You do have a yearly obligation to report your financials if you do a Reg CF, and I'll mention what a Reg CF is. That's one of the ways you can raise capital, and a semi-annual obligation for a Reg A+. So at this point, Michael, do you want to take over and run us through what a Reg CF and what a Reg A+ offering are?
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So the first one we'll start with is Reg CF. So what this means is regulation crowdfunding. Essentially, what this allows you to do is raise up to $5 million a year in capital. So Reg CF is open to the general public. There are no limitations on accredited versus non-accredited investors who can invest in this raise. One of the beauties of Reg CF, and Yaki mentioned it a little bit, is that the entrepreneur is staying in control. So you're the one who's setting the valuation, the price per share, and how much equity your company wants to offer. Typically on Start Engine, founders are offering non-voting common shares, but that's not limited to only that. We do also allow you to offer preferred shares as well as convertible notes. So you're able to really set those terms yourself. With a Reg CF launch on our platform, it does typically take around 30 to 40 days. So this is the quicker of the two options compared to Reg A+. In terms of cost and fee structure on what goes into a Reg CF, upfront costs are around $10,000. These are not paid to Start Engine. These are just costs that we need to get the platform up and running. It includes an independent review from an independent CPA, which would be a 2-year financial review, as well as LLC to C Corp conversion if you do choose to do so. In terms of what we do take on our end, all of our fees are on the back end and deducted directly from raise amounts themselves. So we take a 7% of the raise in cash, as well as 2% of the raise in equity. It is not 2% of the entire company. It is just 2% of the shares given out on the platform. We also do take a $10,000 flat fee from that first disbursement you choose to make. So one of the beauties of equity crowdfunding and doing it on Start Engine is you're able to actually disperse funds after 21 days live and $10,000 raised. So you don't have to meet the entirety of your goal to start dispersing funds from your campaign. The next one I'll talk about is Reg A+. So this one is a little bit different than Reg CF. The process of getting one of these campaigns up and running is a lot more extensive. It does take around 3 to 5 months to launch, just due to some CPA audits as well as some filings with the SEC that do take a little bit longer. This allows you to raise up to $75 million a year though. So a lot more capital is being raised under Reg A+ than Reg CF. In terms of upfront costs, legal and financial does cost a little bit more. It is around $100,000, and there is a lot more due diligence in going into getting a Reg A set up. The platform fees are essentially still the same. We do take 7% of the raise in cash, and there are some escrow transaction fees as well. And then we only take 2% of the raise in equity. Again, it's not 2% of your entire company, but it is 2% of the shares you're giving out on the platform. And there is no $10,000 flat fee from that first disbursement in Reg A+. Some things to consider when launching an equity crowdfunding campaign, again, and Yaki mentioned this as well, but is transparency. So your company must open their books. All of your financials will be public, but again, at the end of the day, you still are a private company. So just to clarify, companies do need to become, public information in terms of financials. So that is one aspect to consider. Again, there is the ongoing reporting. So through Reg CF, you will have one annual report per year. This does typically cost around $3,000 to $5,000. Through Reg A+, you will have semi-annual reporting. This is around $15,000 to $20,000 per year in terms of reporting. Again, there is no guarantee for success when you do an equity crowdfunding campaign. We try to mitigate this risk by being as hands-on and white glove service as we possibly can. So we want to make sure that you guys are, raising as much capital as possible. And that's why we do have this selective approach with companies we are taking on the platform. We want to make sure that we can put maximum effort in making sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. Another thing to consider is it is more passive investors than strategic investors. So even with this, like Iñaki said, these people can become brand ambassadors. They can really, purchase product on their own or really go out and open new partnerships for you guys potentially. So we really do want to generate as much momentum from the general public as possible. But again, these are less of strategic relationships and strategic investors as if you would go out, institutionally. So really what the equity crowdfunding process looks like is first learning about it. So that's what we're doing right here, is being able to answer any questions you guys have. It still is a newer industry. So we do want to make sure that, companies are aware of the process and what that looks like. Once you sign, that's when you're able to start, marketing and raising capital for either Reg CF or Reg A. And one thing we do always want to say is you always want to be raising. And what that really looks like is first you might open a Reg CF campaign, raise that first $1 to $5 million through Reg CF. And then we can get a Reg A platform or Reg A raise set up in the background so you can continue raising right after your Reg CF raise closes. Then we do offer a secondary trading platform at Start Engine. We just created this year. Essentially what this allows you to do is buy and sell privately traded shares on our platform. So this gives founders the ability to liquidate if they do need to, or buy and sell or buy back shares that they previously sold on the platform, as well as our investors to sell their shares on our platform as well. I'll go over a little bit about Start Engine, our performance. So currently we've raised over $450 million. We also have over 600,000 plus registered investors on our platform. We do have an established CEO. Howard Marks was the co-founder of video game publisher Activision, which has a multi-billion-dollar market cap. And he is our, like I said, co-founder and CEO. We are the 10th fastest growing private company in California, according to the 2020 Inc. 5000 series list. So we have had tremendous growth. Our team is, expanding constantly. So it's really been great to see that as well. Like I mentioned, we do have our secondary trading platform. It says preparing to launch on this slide, but we actually have launched this. So that has been really awesome to see. And we do currently have, I believe, 4 or 5 companies on our secondary trading platform at the moment. We are Shark approved. So renowned businessman and investor Kevin O'Leary, or as many of you know him as Mr. Wonderful, is a strategic advisor through Start Engine. So he constantly is holding quarterly pitch competitions to really learn about new startups. And he also offers them $25,000 if you do win that pitch startup. So it's been really great to see his impact on Start Engine as well. So this is really going to talk about preparing a strong crowdfunding marketing plan and what that really looks like. So first things are a couple things to ask yourself. Who is my audience? You really want to profile and segment them. Make sure you are marketing your campaign to the right demographics as well as marketing channels. The next thing you want to answer is what differentiates me versus other companies? Not only companies in your own vertical, but as well as companies who are doing equity crowdfunding themselves. How are you going to be noticed? How should you really market yourself to really garner as many investments from not only the general public, but also, our own community as well? And really, why is the public going to care? What have you guys done in terms of traction to really make the general public want to invest in you? As well as, garnering our own 600,000 investor base as well. So one of those things is going to be identifying the marketing channels. So you really want to identify your own email and social campaigns. You really want to be marketing this to not only your customer list, but any type of social media presence that you do have. We really want to tackle these different marketing channels. So that's going to include paid ads, PR, influencer marketing. We do recommend a $5,000 to $10,000 test budget for ad campaigns. This is really going to be for that first month of the campaign, really understanding which marketing channels are going to perform the best, and then executing that, the further you go along. We do typically see a 3 to 5 times return on ad spend through the marketing channels that we do recommend and that we do provide as resources. And really the last thing is prepare and be willing to adapt. Maybe one week Facebook is doing really well and you guys are, have your ad spend and you're seeing, 3 to 5 times return there. And the next week you're only seeing 1 to 3. You have to be prepared and be willing to adapt and go attack other marketing channels to try to get the same return. We can't just, sit back and hope that the Facebook ad spend will go back up. We really got to be strategic and understand that we do need to test other marketing channels again as well.
Quick little intermission here to reset the stage for those of you who joined halfway. Please drop your questions in the Q&A section. That is what we're going to get to towards the end of the webinar. And I also dropped in Michael's email to the chat. Should you want to reach out to us, please do. We'd be more than happy to take a closer look at your company specifically. If you're interested in raising capital today on Start Engine. And again, please mention that you met us at the Kiwi Tech webinar so that we know you already listened to all of this. Thanks.
Cool. So where are the investors really coming from for your campaigns? It's really one of three places. So the first place is going to be your own community. And what this really means is it could be, your company database, customers, emails, partners, investor networks. It's really anyone who knows about your business and hasn't had the opportunity to invest before and is now getting the opportunity. The second place is our own crowdfunding platform. So we currently, like I mentioned, do have over 600,000 registered investors through our platform. We really advertise them through milestone bases throughout the life of the campaign. So they do tend to trickle in and make up about 40 to 60% of the entire raise. Some companies do see more traction, some see a little bit less, but this is the average benchmark that we are seeing for companies raising on our platform. The last place is going to be new audiences, which is essentially the general public. So they make up the latter part of the raise. So we do, like I said, want to really go out and pay and use ad spend to really garner these general public investments and really get as many new audiences brought into the raise as possible.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Losing my voice over here. It's that time of year. So we have two last slides to go over, and then we can go to Q&A. So I think we're right on schedule. These next two slides are case studies. So this first company is a commercial drone company called Xcraft. They've done 3 offerings or fundraise rounds with us. They did a Reg CF, a second Reg CF, and then a Reg A plus. Their strategy was what we kind of preach, which is always be fundraising or always be raising. Because they always had a round open with us every single year, even when they didn't need the money and they were just constantly fundraising, they were able to add another vertical. So they basically saw the opportunity to go from a consumer drone company to now a commercial drone company. So because of that, they had money in the bank and they were able to fund that expansion into another vertical. So you can kind of see that's important nowadays because you never know when that opportunity is going to come to grow your team or move into a completely different part of the industry. Another company called Highly, these guys are out of San Diego. They've done also 3 rounds with us. They did a Reg CF, another Reg CF, and a Reg A plus. And their strategy was also something that we're very fond of and that we preach, which is to mobilize your existing email database or your customers and turn them into investors, right? So they had a strong community of 150,000 passionate workout, wellness-oriented individuals. And they turn a lot of those, if not most of them, into investors for their campaign. So that's why they've been able to raise 3 campaigns with us. So just like your customers can become your investors, new investors can also become your customers. And that's what I was trying to get to in the earlier slide when I said that some companies, like possibly Highly, they saw an increase in sales while they were raising with us. Cool. So at this point, we're done with our slides, and that is Michael's email, mmancini@startengine.com. I also dropped it into the chat. Mine is below. If you're interested in some sort of partnership, please reach out. That's why we're here. It's a no strings attached, easy call. If you just want to chat with Michael, he'll take a look at your company. He'll tell you a little bit about how it could work for you, the benefits, the cons, and you possibly could start raising millions with us if everything looks good. So thank you again, Kiwi Tech, and thank you all for coming out and listening to the webinar.
Yaki and Michael, thank you so much for that great session. I hope everybody could take up all the information that they could, and this was as informative as you had expected it to be. Of course, now I would like to also invite a VP of crowdfunding at Kiwi Tech, Jeff Wenzel, to give us his insights on how to use Reddit ads to find investors. Jeff.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Randy. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. And Michael and Aki, that was awesome stuff here. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of context as to where I'm kind of jumping in our event today. So I handle a lot of the marketing, and I am in the weeds on this in terms of trying to find audiences. So if you remember in the Start Engine slides a couple minutes ago, kind of talking about that inner network, your core customers, as well as paid ads, since the platforms themselves have strategies around there. So I personally have ran over 125 campaigns. I ran a marketing agency specifically for equity crowdfunding. I've worked on multiple platforms. So I've just seen a ton of stuff behind the scenes. So a lot of the things that I'm doing right now is based on some of the changes that we're not in control of, whether it's Facebook and Apple fighting, whether it be just the amount of issuers right now on all these platforms, something that started to kind of mention that there just are a lot of companies now fundraising. So how do you sort of pop up out of that noise, as well as kind of seeing where energy and traffic is now going in this space. As you see sort of Facebook getting as an older audience, they may not know what equity crowdfunding is if the audience tends to get older. So how do you find newer and younger audiences? Where do you start to find them? So one of the things that we focus quite a bit on here at Kiwi Tech, and I have over the last 2 or 3 years, is sort of alternative channels. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Is I'm just going to kind of quickly do a quick overview of how to potentially use Reddit in your strategies for equity crowdfunding. And the reason I like Reddit is because of the subreddits. And if you're not familiar with Reddit, it really is the front page of the internet, right? It is, if you are starting to see a meme on Instagram or Facebook, it was probably on Reddit 2 or 3 weeks ago. If you're seeing a story on your local news, it was on Reddit a month ago. So it really is where you see a lot of communities hanging out. You can get way into the weeds. Earlier this year, you might have heard about Wall Street bets and the amount of people who started to invest in those types of stocks. Again, that was coming from Reddit communities. So I'm going to just kind of do a quick overview of this, and then at the end of it, I'll open up for some Q&A. But so I want to show this quick image here so you guys can kind of see where my mind is. I'm going to pull this up a little bit more here. This is a funnel that I'm thinking about a lot of times as a marketing guy when it comes to some of these campaigns. I'm thinking about awareness as my top funnel here. I'm always thinking about, like, I've got to get people to at least be aware of the company. My next one is a potential lead, right? Meaning that somebody might sign up, you might get their email address, right? They have shown some interest. From there, then you're prospecting them. You're trying to get them to open your emails and read what you're doing and start to hear about what might be going on in your company that makes it unique. And eventually they become an investor. And if you're really lucky, they start to tell other people about it, right? That's when you get to that sort of fan level. So when we're at this Reddit conversation, I'm really in these top 2 levels here. I'm in awareness and I'm in lead gen. And I'm going to show you kind of a couple ways that I like to do that. So I'm going to close out this here and just kind of walk you through here. So if you don't know about Reddit, I'm going to just over here on my left, and I can obviously share this with you, but it's kind of a quick Reddit 101. And if you see on my screen on the right here, this is an example of a campaign I just finished up working on. Let me go back to this slide here. I'll just kind of quickly go back through this so you guys can see what I was talking about. So this was the slide I was mentioning that nobody could see here. I thought I was sharing my screen. So what I was talking about is this funnel here. So when I'm talking about Reddit ads, I'm thinking about this top level right here, awareness and leads. So this awareness is just getting people to be aware about your project. Again, we were discussing how many campaigns are active right now and how much noise is somewhat in the space. So how do we get people to see you and get in your space? And then the lead portion of it, you can see right here, would be somebody takes an action. Maybe they sign up on your landing page. They become a Facebook follower. They become, they start to follow you. So they're starting to get in your ecosystem. So when I'm discussing Reddit ads, I want to be talking in my mind about these top 2 levels here. So, all right, hopefully that visual helps out a lot more. Let me go ahead and close this out here. So over on my right screen, you can see this is an example of an ad that I was just running a little bit ago for a campaign. This was over on WeFunder, but this was a campaign we were running, and you can see this is what it looks like out in the world. It's a promoted post. But when we go through Reddit ads, I'm just going to kind of go over top level sort of 101 here. So a lot of times Reddit ads are, ask me anythings or viral content or opening an open forum for discussion about almost anything. And then there's certain subreddits, which I'll show you a little bit more here in just a second on how you can get into those subreddits and get into those communities. So again, we've seen tons and tons of people in this on these channels. As of this moment, there's over 9,000 subreddits. So again, you can almost find a subreddit for anything or any sort of interest or niche. So if you are a company that has a very unique niche, we can probably go into Reddit, find a subreddit, and go to that community where there's people having conversations about it. When it gets to the type of ads, you've got promoted posts in these sections, which are like link ads or text videos, or text ads. This would be the example of a link ad. If you would have clicked this link here, it would have taken you to the WeFunder page. You've got the ability to do display ads, which most companies are not doing these as much. So a lot of times what I'm thinking about is video ads, or I'm thinking about text ads, I'm thinking about link ads. So again, display ads, you can do them, but again, these are typically a little bit more for bigger companies because the prices started around 30,000 to even get on that. So don't really think about this as much as you're thinking about this top level here. And then the way these ads start to look is that they will be showing up inside of these either on the subreddits or they show up on the Reddit page itself. So sort of an example of one up here. So when you get into it, it's actually really simple. There's a management tool behind the scenes. I can pull up one of those here in just a minute. You will need a Reddit account. So if you've done any advertising on Facebook or Google, it's somewhat similar. You'll create an ad account inside of the platform. You will need your content to be sized correctly. So you've got you've got your dimensions needed. They are a little bit different than Facebook and Instagram. So if you are familiar with that, same concept, you just have to crop your images. But then when you get into it, the unique thing is that you can actually choose the subreddits that you want your ads to go to. And that's what I use the most. You can do sort of general, you can do just location, you can do very wide interest, and I'll show you what that means in just a second here. But a lot of times what I like to do is I like to just put my ads in certain subreddits that I know are where my community is. So you can, so you get in, you build out your interest, you can build out your location, your subreddits, you can pick if it's desktop or mobile. So again, it's super, super easy to build. The hardest part is actually in this section that I'm looking at right here. And this is how do you find these subreddits? So there's a couple tools that you can potentially use to kind of start to learn about this space. One of them is this a tool called Nicheness. And again, I can share these links later, or you can obviously shoot me an email and I can send these links. So Nicheness is a pretty unique tool. It's free to use, and you can go in and actually search for subreddits, right? So I'm looking at certain subreddits here, and you can see here, these are actually pretty big subreddits, right? So you're looking at announcements, funny, ask Reddit, gaming, pics, science, world news, right? So you can go in and actually choose some of these subreddits. Now, the issue here would be that your audience would be really, really wide. So it wouldn't be as focused. So sometimes what you might want to do, again, go back to this funnel over, if we look at the funnel, if we are thinking about just general awareness, right, this sort of top level, maybe what you do is you do something around, news, today I learned, right? These huge, huge subreddits, because maybe you just want to bring a bunch of eyeballs into your campaign or into your project. Or what you can look at is maybe your offering is actually a pretty wide offering. So this might be a good scenario. So you can look here, and again, you can go on and on and on. You can also do a filter process. So again, we can filter and try to find a little bit smaller niches. But again, this is a quick way to just sort of find subreddits. Another scenario to look at is a tool called redditsearch.io. And this is one I like to use when I want to actually be a little bit more focused. So let's just say I put in the search term investing. And again, this could be equity crowdfunding, this could be investing, this could be financial planning. I'm just putting in a search term. Here you can start to get into the weeds of potential subreddits where conversations are happening around investment. So we could look at cryptocurrency, BizSMG, crypto moonshots, small business, Wall Street bets, personal finance, short squeeze. Again, and I know these aren't exactly equity crowdfunding, but for us, trying to continue to find more and more people is my ultimate goal in a lot of these campaigns. Is I got to find more people at least talking about this space. Because just after 6 years of doing equity crowdfunding, I just noticed that a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about. Like, it feels like mad scientist land. So I try to find scenarios where I'm like, all right, let's look at crypto moonshots. And I'm just using this as an example, but let's go in here and say, all right, there's 1.3 million members, 3.5 people online. That is a very active community. So maybe if possible, we could put an advertisement in this channel that's going out to these people, right? So that's the ultimate goal here is I'm getting in front of newer eyeballs of people having conversations in this space. So kind of moving back over to my left screen here, after we kind of go through the sort of the subreddit world here, we can get into budgeting, right? So the other thing that I've noticed over the last at least 3 years of doing a lot of Reddit ads compared to Facebook ads is my actual cost per thousand. And this is important when you're trying to fill your funnel with eyeballs, right? So So cost per thousand is a metric that all the platforms use. It just means that I will pay X amount of dollars to get 1,000 impressions on, a Facebook newsfeed, an Instagram newsfeed, a Reddit. What I found is that Reddit is actually relatively cheaper on my cost per thousand, even when I'm doing in those subreddits. So I'll average my cost per thousand on Facebook might be 20 to 30 bucks to get a thousand impressions, where I found that it's about $4 to $5 a thousand impressions on Reddit. So again, you can start to look at what your overall budget for a campaign might be, and you might say, ooh, Facebook is it's just too expensive right now. Or Facebook during the holidays can sometimes get really expensive. So then I have to look for alternative channels. So Michael kind of mentioned this about this sort of pivoting and looking at other potential resources. And that's why Reddit needs to be a part of the thought pattern when you start to see, changes in Facebook, or they change their algorithm and something goes up and down, you might have to switch to alternative platforms like Reddit. So again, those are things that I just look for over and over and over when it comes to kind of finding new audiences. And then last, we can look at sort of, types of creative. What I have found is that the creative that works the best when we're looking at Reddit is actually really organic looking posts that don't look like ads. And this has been a friction point I have with many of my clients, because a lot of times clients want to be in this very polished, I am presenting this thing to you that you can invest in. They just don't register anymore as much in some of these channels. So when Reddit has such an organic feel, I actually want organic looking images. I want very natural looking images. I don't want the polished piece of content. And I also want the language to be a little looser than you might put on, a press release or something along those lines. It's a different form of advertising at the end of the day. So again, I try to find as much as possible a little bit more of organic looking content. And if I go over here, this is an okay example. This is, again, I'm showing a little bit of a friction point that I as a marketer will sometimes have with a client is I didn't really want any of this stuff in here. I wanted just a nice image of this client's beer, right? But the client wants, oh, I want my logo on there. I want this. And you just kind of have to work that balance out to say, I'm actually looking for a little bit more of an organic feel. So my last part of this before we get into Q&As, because I'm sure there's probably some questions here, and I know I want to give some time for Start Engine to answer, because I know we're kind of in the weeds here on stuff, is also thinking about lead generation for Reddit. And I'm going to pull up a community that I'm a part of where I actually found this by being on Reddit. So another platform that we're starting to use quite a bit more is Discord. And if you're not familiar with it, I recommend go Google it. We're not talking about Discord just yet, but sometimes what I like to do is I like to use Reddit ads, drive traffic into a landing page with the idea of signing up and join our Discord community. So I'm going to pull up a couple of Discord communities just so you can kind of get a sense of it. So one of them is, and Naki, I don't know if you guys are a part of this now, but there is an amazing Start Engine community on Discord that I'm a part of. It's growing. There's like over 105 members, but this is something that I recommend all my people join so that you can just see conversations. You can see what investors are talking about behind the scenes, right? So this is a Discord community that is all about investing on Start Engine, right? And it's super fun. I'm in this group all the time. But another example of it, and this is something that I've done, is I actually run a Discord called the Startup Corner, right? And I've got over 308 people here. A lot of these people came from Reddit, came from some of my lead generations. My goal here is to take people from these communities that I'm finding on social media and dropping them into a place that I can have conversations. I can post blogs. I have meetups. I have clubhouse events. I even do a listening party. So again, it's just about being a little human in some of our marketing outreach. So again, this is another opportunity that you can look at and say, hey, I've got people on Reddit that I'm doing for awareness. And ultimately, what I want them to do is I want them to be a lead and sign up and get into my Discord community, or even get into a private Facebook group. But I like Discord a little bit more because there's some other tools in it. But get them into our ecosystem so they can just learn more about how you guys are behind the scenes. So again, not so much about investing at this point, but just more around just creating that community of people and really creating the crowd that you're ultimately going to be going to a Start Engine and saying, hey, we want to do crowdfunding because we've actually built this crowd of people who are interested in it. So that's sort of Reddit, real quick, Reddit 101, and sort of how maybe to think about some of these strategies, how to maybe potentially use a Discord community. how to think about alternative channels if you're starting to see dips in other, in Facebooks or Instagrams or Googles of the world. But yeah, so that's it. So I want to leave it enough time for Q&A because I'm sure we've got a lot of them. But that's it. That's sort of Reddit 101.
Jeff, thank you so much for the great session. We already are receiving a lot of questions as well. So I would like to invite Iñaki and Michael again back on stage, so back on the floor for the Q&A session as well. So let me just go through the couple of questions. I'll go through a couple of questions that we've received. Okay, so starting with a couple of questions that we've received for Start Engine. So how is Start Engine different or better than more established platforms like WeFunder?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are the leader in equity crowdfunding. If you look at the numbers, we've raised the most amount of capital for Reg CF and Reg A combined last year and have broken the record this year. A little bit of a different approach that we do take compared to WeFunder in order to have this success is we are very hands-on and white glove service. So WeFunder is a little bit more DIY, great platform. They've brought a lot of, attention to equity crowdfunding, but we are a little bit more hands-on in that approach. So we provide you with that entire team of people to work with, essentially, putting together your offering documents, filing those with the SEC on your behalf, as well as actually creating the entire page design for you, and giving you a marketing guidance and marketing resource to help you actually market the campaign. So those are just a couple things that differentiate us from WeFunder.
Right. Thank you so much.
One more thing to differentiate us, to add on to that, we have our secondary trading platform as well. So we're the only platform right now that has that in the US, and that's basically an ATS. It allows investors to trade shares after a company's done fundraising, and that obviously is very attractive for investors because they can have a shot at getting liquidity back sooner. Whether they want to sell their shares or buy in because they missed out on your campaign when it was live. It allows for a form of liquidity before a major liquidity event like an IPO or an acquisition, which everybody is hoping for. So it does allow for you to take care of your investors, or if you're a founder or CEO, you can also liquidate some of your shares earlier than having to wait for one of those events.
Thank you, Iñaki. Thanks a lot, Michael, for that response. Now, the next question we have is, is there an average percentage equity given up for the raise?
Yeah, it typically ranges. Again, it's company by company. It's around 1 to 20%. I know that's a pretty broad range, but we do work with a lot of companies, and it's just really depending on what terms you do want to set. But typically, it is around that 1 to 20% in equity range.
All right. So the next question is, it sounds like Start Engine and Wiki are competitors. Am I correct about that, or is it a cooperative agreement between the two companies?
I'm not familiar with Wiki. What company is that from? Yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard of that partnership before.
Right.
If anybody can maybe drop the link to that company, I'd be happy to check it out. But I am the only partnerships guy, and I don't have a partnership with Wiki. So it could be something that was done once, or maybe a connection from that specific company that raised with us. But as a kind of official partnership, we don't have something with Wiki. I'm happy to look into it though.
They could have meant Kiwi and spelled it wrong, to be honest.
Could be.
They could have mixed the K and W and put Wiki instead of Kiwi.
Oh, Kiwi Tech.
Yeah.
Right. It could be Kiwi. Yes. I believe that too. It could be.
Yeah. Then if that's the case, yes, we do have a partnership with Kiwi, Kiwi Tech, and I'm happy to let you, Karandeep, talk about that as well. But it's pretty recent. We've known each other for about a year. We've been wanting to work together. I think both companies have been pretty busy growing, and we finally said, hey, let's just do this. You guys have amazing companies raising capital, and Kiwi Tech, you have an amazing portfolio of companies that need to get their help with developments to keep growing and just becoming big tech companies. So we said, hey, kind of goes hand in hand. Let's come together. Yeah, and just help each other's companies out. So that's where we're kind of in the process now. This is the first webinar. We're kind of getting to meet the Kiwi Tech community of companies and telling them what Start Engine does and letting you know that, hey, we're a call away or a friendly phone call away from helping you raise hopefully $1 million or $2 million. And for the Kiwi Tech companies, we stand by Kiwi Tech, and we'd be happy to have some of our companies outsource their developing to Kiwi Tech.
Right. Thank you so much, Iñaki. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you as part of ecosystem as well. All right, so moving on to the next question that we received, just a second. What industry would be more inviting for partnership crowdfunding, SaaS or health and wellness administration?
Yeah, so we work with both verticals quite often. We do work with a lot of SaaS companies, and we do work with a lot of companies in the health tech industry. So there isn't necessarily one's going to be better than the other. We do take and vet companies just, company by company basis. So we do have like a process of understanding, the traction that each company has, what their goals are, et cetera. And that's kind of how we make that decision. We're not exclusive to certain types of verticals. We do work with, every single type of vertical on our platform, but it really is just company by company and how, the traction of those companies are. And that's pretty much how we make our decisions.
Thank you so much. The next question we've received is, just a second. Is regulation crowdfunding of value if you are pre-revenue?
Yeah, kind of similar to my last answer. So we do work with a lot of pre-revenue companies, and we've worked with a lot of companies who are, maybe $1 to $2 million in revenue. Again, it is going to depend a lot on vertical if you are pre-revenue. If you're more of a D2C or CPG type company and you're pre-revenue, it's probably going to be a little bit too early in terms of, equity crowdfunding. But on the other hand, if you are, maybe a tech company and you guys are pre-revenue, have proprietary technology or patents, et cetera, something along those lines, then pre-revenue is going to be okay. The tech is going to speak for itself. And, people understand that, pre-revenue companies in that space are more often and more likely than it's going to be, like I mentioned, in a D2C space or CPG space.
All right. So I think this kind of answers another question, that is that would equity crowdfunding be a good fit if we are pre-revenue med tech company with no current customer base?
Yeah, I would definitely say that it could definitely be a possibility, especially given it's a med tech company. We have worked with pre-revenue med tech companies. So it definitely is. Again, I can't say definitively yes or no that it would be, accepted onto the platform, et cetera. There is a lot more detail I'd have to get into and understand, but definitely a possibility for sure. We have worked with pre-revenue med tech companies.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Jeff, there's a question for you. So Reddit to Discord versus to more standard LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups?
The answer is all of it. There is no one thing. So it's actually spending the time to do a little bit of all of it, and then set up your UTMs correctly so that you can maybe see in your Google Analytics if one is performing better or worse. Whenever I'm working on a campaign, that first 60 to 90 days is where I'm just trying to grab as much data as possible to determine where to put more effort after that, right? So if I am seeing Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups is performing better than the Reddit to Discord, awesome. Whatever, who cares? But you still want to at least try some of it and then start to work from there as to what's working best.
True. I agree. I completely agree with that as well. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Now, another question for Start Engine team. So say you start with a regulation crowdfunding in Start Engine, and you raise your initial $5 million, and you have so much demand that it exceeds that 5 million. So how quickly can you move to a regulation A or plus raise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So during that life of the Reg CF campaign, we can really understand that traction and how quickly you guys are raising. We will understand quickly if we do need to, set up a Reg A in the background so that you can continue raising after that Reg CF is completed. Because of that setup time, that 3 to 5 months, we actually can set up the Reg A while your Reg CF is still, going on, so that right when the Reg CF closes, there won't be much of a lull time to get right into a Reg A due to demand. So it's definitely something that we actually encourage companies to do if they want to continue raising with us, is have us set up that Reg A in the background. So right when the Reg CF campaign closes, we can jump right into that. So you're continuously raising.
All right. And are you available for Indian startups as well?
We currently are only working with companies that are based in the US. We can also work with companies based in Canada, but only on Reg A plus campaigns. But any other international companies, we unfortunately are not able to work with at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much. And do you have fundraisers that are non-US companies? And if so, how does it work?
All right. So we do take investments from international investments. We actually currently can't take or accept international investments from Canada or the UK at the moment, just due to some regulations that their countries are. But other international countries we do take investments from.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for those responses. I believe that brings us to the end of the event and the workshop as well. However, I would really like to thank Iñaki, Michael, and Jeff for the wonderful insights that you shared with everybody. And I would like everybody in the audience to really thank you for joining us today. I hope this was as informative as for you and fun for you as much as it was for us bringing this to you. So please, we would love to host you at our upcoming events as well. Thanks a lot, everybody who joined us today. And until next time, please take care and stay safe. I think the team should.
Jeff, thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Naki.
us. Before we cut off, and thank you for coming out. Thank you, Kiwi Tech.
Thank you, Naki. Thank you so much. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Jeff. I think the team will also be sharing an upcoming events banner. Let me just share. Yes, so there it is. I would like everybody's attention towards the screen before we end the event. We at Kiwi Tech do host tons of events on a weekly basis. As you can see, we are hosting our West Coast Demo Day tomorrow and our Media and Entertainment Demo Day on Jan 11th. Of course, it's going to be the holiday season in the mid. So, but we would love to host you at our events, which are upcoming next year and tomorrow as well. So please do join us. We would love to host you. And until next time, please take care and stay safe. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.